Hello, everybody. Obviously, this channel is focused on recognizing statehood for Artsakh, a little piece of land over here in this part of the world that's been under attack. And so most of you who are watching are either Armenian, there's some Turks and Azeris watching, which is great. You know, good to have you. Good to have you in the comment section, kind of railing against me. You know, I thrive on it. It's great. It's not going to stop me. Just sometimes it proves my point, some of the things you guys are saying. So keep it up. But I also do some kind of religious videos, not just talking about Armenian current events and Artsakh, but talking about why this is important to me personally as a Christian. This is the first Christian nation, right? And I do a lot of videos about that. And I think that's why a lot of you are watching. But my least watched videos when I post them are when I talk about American politics. And so, but I cannot avoid it. I did a video a week and a half ago when the election happened. It's like the least watched video on this channel for a long time. And it's like, I get it. But the reason I do those is because I'm looking at, you know, what's best for Artsakh. And honestly, a Donald Trump presidency is the best thing, because Joe Biden is not, by the time you're watching this, some of you, if this video gets enough traction after, you know, January 20th, 2021, there will be a new president, whether it's a second term of Trump or a Biden presidency. You know, that's the point is moot. But I'm telling you, I think if Biden is president, it'll be 4 years of more malaise and inactivity and just outright ignoring Armenia by the United States. But if Trump is president, at least there's a chance, because he's done some crazy things, out of the box things, and because of the flare up, I think that if we weren't in the middle of election right now, that this would not have been, like, he would have been able to focus on this instead of trying to win his election, that he would have been able to give more attention to it, because he did in some of his campaign stops. He mentioned it. And even, again, this video it's mid-November when I'm recording this, and even if he does get voted out, there's still time for him to do something. What he needs to do is recognize Artsakh. But, all right, so that's my 2 cents. Before I launch into just updating everybody on the election, I did that video I made about predicting the prediction was the last political one I did, and so I'm just going to do a rehash of what's going on right now. But before that, share this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell. If you think I'm doing something worth value, if you're enjoying it, and think of somebody that you think will enjoy it or benefit from it, just send it, and subscribe. If you're not subscribed and you're watching this, then what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? All right, so here's a map. This is from the website, what's the website? Epoch Times. So the Epoch Times has been around for a long time. A little bit of history on the Epoch Times is they are a Christian news organization that's originated in China, communist China. And so they're not really popular there right now, but they originated back 20, 30 years, over 20 years ago, I think. And they're pretty straightforward on the reporting. They have a lot of really good reporting out of China, but they're also, you know, they pay attention to what's going on around the world, in particular the election. So a lot of the maps that you've seen all show, you know, Nevada and Arizona and Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, and Georgia, I think, all in the Biden column, I believe, most of those maps. So this one, it's like, well, it says Donald Trump's at 232 and Biden's at 227. So what this map is, it shows that there are lawsuits going on. Right? There's still lawsuits going on. There's recount in Georgia, recount in Wisconsin, and lawsuits. Because no matter what the New York Times says, there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Okay, well, that's, you know, there is plenty of evidence of voter fraud. How do you define widespread? We'll not hash that out right here, but it's more than just about voter fraud. There's impropriety. There are some violations of law that happened, constitutional law, voting law that happened. So that's what these lawsuits are about. So I'm just wanting to show you that this is a map of where it really stands. Some people are just saying President-elect Joe Biden, but you can't really say it until all of these have been certified, and that doesn't happen until like December 12th or 14th. The certification by each state doesn't happen. In fact, this is not an anomaly. Well, there are plenty of anomalous things about this election, but look, so this is a history Artsakh.com. This is an election that happened only 20 years ago. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. 537 votes. That was the difference in the Florida election between Al Gore and George W. Bush. Just to read a little bit. That's all that separated Democrat Al Gore and his Republican challenger George W. Bush when on November 26, 2000, 3 weeks after Election Day, the state of Florida declared Bush the winner of its 25 electoral votes in the race for U.S. president. So there was nobody saying President-elect Al Gore or President-elect George W. Bush for 3 weeks after the election because it was disputed. After a wild electoral night on November 7, 2000, during which TV networks first called the key state of Florida for Gore, they first called it for Gore, then for Bush, followed by a concession by Gore that was soon rescinded. The results for who would be the nation's 43rd president were simply too close to call. All right, I'm not going to go into all these details, but nobody was saying President-elect Gore in 2000, like 4 days after the election, if there was disputes. Now, this is obviously there was just one state with disputes at the time. Things have changed since then. A lot of things have changed since then, how we vote. All right, so let me just go through this right here. I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs about this. Lawsuits allege massive election fraud. I don't know if that's the right term, but here's what we're going to say. As the media and Democrat Party pump out a narrative about a Joe Biden victory prior to final election tallies, President Trump's legal team has filed a number of lawsuits alleging massive voter fraud across the country. At the same time, cognizant of tens of millions of Americans who believe the election was stolen, U.S. Attorney General William Barr has authorized federal prosecutors to pursue substantial allegations of voting irregularities from the 2020 election before the results are certified. Okay, so irregularities is a little different than fraud. Okay, there's some evidence of fraud, like people that have died that voted. How did that happen? And you should look into that. But several battleground states saw suspicious late-hour gains for Biden that gave him a razor-thin majority over President Trump that swung the Electoral College in his favor. In court papers filed this week, the president's legal team alleges these results are fraudulent. Widespread tampering with ballots, attorneys say, enabled Biden to gain a slim lead in swing states, Michigan and Wisconsin, as well as pivotal gains in Georgia and Pennsylvania as polls are closing. All right, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just saying, if you're not paying attention, you might be surprised if we come to December or January 20th and it's President Trump still. Okay, there's stuff going on here. I don't know what the likelihood is. I'm not a lawyer, and this is a very complex issue, but it is our courts that decided ultimately that Bush beat Gore after a recount, and after they had to shut down lawsuits. So maybe it'll be the Supreme Court shutting down Trump's lawsuits and certifying Joe Biden as president. Maybe that will be the case, but maybe some of these lawsuits will go through and overturn thousands upon thousands of votes that should not have been counted for Biden. That may be the result. I'm just going to run through a bunch of this real quick. One of the issues is the voting machines by Dominion. This is from Washington Examiner. Democratic senators warned of potential vote switching by Dominion voting machines prior to 2020 election. So today everybody's saying, Dominion's voting machines. So that's one of the issues. If you're not paying attention, Dominion is the company that provided a bunch of the voting machines in about 30 of the states, including all of the swing states. And saying, there's no vote switching, it's all fine. But Democrat senators were warning about the potential before this election. Even who was it? Elizabeth Warren was one of them. In a December 19th letter to Dominion Voting Systems, which has been mired in controversy after a human error involving its machines in Antrim County, Michigan, resulted in incorrect counts. Democrats, senators Elizabeth Warren, et cetera, Klobuchar, warned about reports of machines switching votes, undisclosed vulnerabilities, and improbable results that threaten the integrity of our election. So, for them to all say, no, it's fine now. Just a few months ago, they were saying there's a problem with it. And here, Trump lawyers say witnesses and evidence prove a stolen election. The software was designed to rig elections. Okay, so this is a Christian newspaper, but I just want to read one thing that stands out right here. Now, Trump's attorneys are in They're working hard. Giuliani's one of them. I'm not going to read that. But Trump's got this other attorney. I don't know if she was working for him at this time, but at least she's commented. She's on his team now. Trump attorney Sidney Powell promises the evidence exists to overturn the election results in multiple states. First of all, I never say anything I can't prove. And President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections, Powell told Fox News. All right. So I'm gonna wrap up with this one thing here. So again, I don't mean to be stirring up controversy and being, oh, you're just believing all the conspiracies out there. But I'm just telling you, this is what's happening. If you're not paying attention, again, you might be a rude awakening. If you think Biden's going to be the president and then some of these lawsuits go through and turn a bunch of things around. I mean, his lawyers are saying we're going to overturn the results in a couple of states. We've got the evidence. We've got the sworn affidavits. We've got people swearing under perjury that they will go to prison if they're lying, that they are firsthand witnesses to some of this fraud and tampering and improprieties, etc. So, but I just want to summarize. This site does a pretty good job of just summarizing. Dominion and hashtag Stop the Steal. 7 facts you need to know. Dominion voting, accurate, reliable, transparent. Number 1, I'm not going to read it all, just read the main points. Dominion voting services process almost half of all American votes. Okay, so this one, and in fact, it's a foreign-owned company. All right, we're talking about foreign interference in our elections. Just the fact that this is some foreign country. All right. The Canadian company with offices in Denver, Colorado, was founded by John Polis and James Hoover. These guys have a web of links to companies tied to Washington power players. Okay, so these guys are insiders on both sides. They list them here. Number 2, Dominion gets crucial components from China. Now, I mean, this is a fact. Could they be involved in hacking the election? He just talks about some of the components, and we don't know exactly, but they get components from China, and China, we all know, well, maybe you don't know, China favored Biden. Like, Trump is hard on China. China's happy with the result if it's Joe Biden, and that's not good for America. China having free reign over the world because they want to take over the world. All right, I won't go into that, but Dominion has ties to the Clinton Foundation. Fascinating. Dominion voting is listed as a $25,000 to $50,000 to the Clinton Foundation in 2014 by the Washington Post. The firm also hired a lobbying firm with ties to Nancy Pelosi's former chief of staff. All right, so they're clearly on a side here. Number 4, the state of Texas rejected Dominion voting machines 3 times. The state of Texas rejected Dominion in 2020 for use in its elections, writing, "The Examiner reports identified multiple hardware and software issues that preclude the Office of the Texas Secretary of State from determining that the Democracy Suite 5.5A system satisfies each of the voting system requirements set forth in the Texas Election Code." All right, so Texas had an issue with it. Here's the one. There are ties between Dominion and George Soros, or are there ties between? And the answer is yes. Dominion has key contracts with companies called Smartmatic. Smartmatic has ties to George Soros. Smartmatic's chairman is a member of the British House of Lords, Mark Malloch Brown, a former vice chairman of Soros's investment funds, former vice president of the World Bank, lead international partner at Sawyer Miller, a political consulting firm, and former vice chair of the World Economic Forum. So this guy is involved in international elections. He's actually giving money donating money in political races around the world to sway the politics of different countries in his favor. All right, that's just one of the things he does. It's not even a secret. It's not a conspiracy. That's just one of the things he does. And so he's there's a lot of likelihood that he's wanting to sway this election. I mean, George Soros. All right. I don't know about these are more specific. Sharpies weren't a problem in Arizona after all. If you're into the minutia of the details, so that's another one. And then the last one, what about the raids in Germany that captured Dominion servers? So there was this rumor going around that the American army seized servers from Dominion headquarters in Germany. All right. So, and this is a representative, Louis Gohmert, is the one that referenced that. That's something that we don't know. Like, it's either just a rumor or it actually happened. Some rumors come out because somebody's leaking true information. So those are the 7 things that this website says. So I didn't want to bore you too much. I just wanted to give you an overview. If you think this election is over, think again. Even the 2000 election wasn't over by this time. So I'm recording this video almost 2 weeks after the election. It took 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the recount in Florida in 2000 was done. And even then, it took the Supreme Court later to stop the lawsuits and say, recount's over, Bush won, he's our president. So everybody out there saying President-elect Joe Biden is going based off of the media, basically the legacy media, the mainstream media is saying, oh, he got the most votes. So, and then nobody, they're all just downplaying any of these lawsuits. Oh, it's all conspiracy and Trump's just a sore loser. And it's like, well, yeah, but if there's actual impropriety, our legal system needs to get to the bottom of it. And the Democrats should be happy about that. Like, Democrats shouldn't want to win a crooked victory. They should want to see that they legitimately won, right? Why would they be against finding holes in the system that can be exploited against them in a future election? Okay. So you shouldn't be against the lawsuits. I'm sure there's plenty of them that are frivolous, but there's plenty of them. And it only takes a couple that could potentially overturn the results. So, that's the only point. I know this video probably won't get watched as much as my other ones, but I felt I was obligated to continue. What's my response? I stopped watching the news and reading about the news on election day because I knew it was going to be a mess, and here I am. It's still a mess, and maybe I'll be another 2 weeks before I come back to this, or maybe I'll never come back to politics. But I want statehood for Artsakh. Statehood for Artsakh.